Joining us once again on the program, the senior Washington correspondent for Business Insider, Dave Leventhal. Welcome back to the Damage Report.
Hey, thanks for having me, John.
Always glad to have you on. So Dave, you've been on multiple times over the years to talk about the epic struggle to get Donald Trump to pay the bills that he has accrued in cities across America. And it looks like we have an update. Big movement in this area, huh?
We do have an update. So the thing that is totally not news is that Donald Trump does not like to pay his bills. If we were having this conversation in the 80s or we were having this conversation yesterday, the story would be the same. But over the course of his campaign, and this dates back to 2015 when he first started running for president, he would go and have his Make America Great Again rallies at cities all across the country. And some of the cities who in many cases would have, dozens and dozens of different police officers and emergency personnel go to those events to staff them, to provide public safety resources that the Secret Service requested. They would try to recoup some of those costs and they wouldn't get their bills paid. However, the little city of La Crosse, Wisconsin, we got a check from that city here at Business Insider that had Donald Trump's campaign treasurer's signature on it. And in fact, they had paid a bill just last month to the city of La Crosse, Wisconsin, stemming from a Mike Pence rally by President Mike Pence back in September. So they were as surprised as anyone that this bill got paid. And it's the only bill that we know of to this date that the Trump campaign has paid in a political campaign context for public safety costs that they hadn't prearranged or whatnot with the city.
Yeah, that is amazing, and multiple faults. But just in case people are joining us at this late date in this campaign, in comparison to other presidential candidates, how this sort of behavior, is this something that we see? Like, is Joe Biden leaving a string of unpaid tabs in cities across America?
Well, the most apples comparison, of course, would be Joe Biden. Joe Biden had not had any of these major, massive rallies that Donald Trump had during the course of his campaign. So as a result, there really isn't any comparison there. Joe Biden's campaign did pay some small bills. There was one bill in Philadelphia that we actually wrote about back in November that was overdue. We asked the Biden campaign about it in the city of Philadelphia. As soon as we did, they said that they were gonna pay that bill and make sure that it wasn't overdue, but there's really no comparison to be drawn with Joe Biden. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, they paid some bills, they didn't pay others. So it's kind of a mixed bag as to what these presidential campaigns will do. And that really kind of goes back to the fact that there's no rules for the road. If a presidential candidate, Democrat or Republican, comes to town, has a big rally, the Secret Service will ask ostensibly for a lot of local resources. The localities will provide them almost 100% of the time because what are they gonna do? Not provide those rallies and have something bad happen in their town? They don't want that to happen. And then meanwhile, the Congress is not providing money to the Secret Service to pay these municipalities back. So it's a big catch-22, and ultimately local taxpayers are the ones who oftentimes get screwed as a result of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really weird because I understand why it's unlikely that Congress is gonna pass legislation specifically to force presidential candidates to pay back local police departments. That's below the level of things that they normally spend a great deal of time on. They have to do important things like name post offices and stuff like that. But I mean, this is a year where lots of people have been getting out in front of saying that they're opposed to defunding the police, but they're okay with a practice that effectively stiffs police departments in major cities to the tune of potentially hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. So I don't know if there's any movement to correct this practice. I'm assuming at this point that there is not.
So, in a very real way, Donald Trump is defunding the police by not paying these bills. And that's a criticism that I've heard and that some of these cities are making, that, hey, look, Donald Trump, if you love law enforcement, if you back the blue, if you support police, if you want to put your money where your mouth is when it comes to supporting law enforcement, here's a real easy way for you to do that. And these are cities all across the country that have sent bills and not had those bills paid. We're talking about El Paso and Tucson and Mesa, Arizona, Spokane, Washington, Erie, Pennsylvania, Burlington, Vermont, and about 10 others, okay? So it's not like this is just one segment of the country. We're not even talking necessarily about blue cities and red cities here. It's a mixed bag, but Donald Trump simply has said, and his campaign earlier in this year told me, look, we don't feel like this is our responsibility as a campaign to pay these bills. We feel like it's a Secret Services department. And that goes back to that notion of Congress not giving the Secret Service money. So directly to your question, could Congress pass legislation to fund the Secret Service for this purpose? Yes. Could they stick in some rider in some omnibus bill to go ahead and do that too? Absolutely. Have they done that at this point? No. And are there members of Congress who would like to? Yes, but they just haven't had unanimity on it, or at least enough votes to go and pass it. And we'll see what happens in 2021, particularly now that we've had so many cities hurting so badly, budgets cratering all across the country. And even though this is not a huge amount of money, it's about $1.82 million that we've tallied up all across the country of unpaid Trump bills. That's still real money for some of these communities, especially some small cities that might only have 10, 20, 50,000 people. That pays for a couple of salaries or whatnot, those unpaid police bills.
And finally, based on what you said they said about their obligation, they don't seem to philosophically change on this. So do we have any idea of why this one particular bill got paid?
We don't. So I reached out to the Trump campaign on several occasions over the span of a few days. They refused to answer my questions on this. I put it to them. I said, did you intentionally pay this bill? And if you didn't, was it a mistake? So we don't know at this point, and there is a possibility that this could just simply be a mistaken paid bill as opposed to something that was intentional on the part of the Trump campaign.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.